Well, hi guys. Coach Jerry here at the Protocol Strength and Conditioning in Tucson, Arizona, and welcome to Coach's Corner. Today's subject is hand care for kettlebell training. Now, some of these principles will carry over into other training modalities, but I wanted to mainly talk today about taking care of your hands during kettlebell training. We're shooting this video in the middle of a month for the Swing Challenge. It's something that our gym participates in, as well as a lot of folks in the Strong First community. So I felt like the timing was pretty good here. I got a couple of principles and a couple of things to avoid, and also some products that might help you as well. So let's go ahead and get into it. So first things first, a torn callus is not a rite of passage. It's not something to brag about on social media. It's an injury. It's lost training time, something that you definitely want to avoid. So I want to give you guys a couple of big picture things that we've noticed when people do tear up their hands. Number one, when someone tears a callus in training, typically it is on the recessive hand. So that means, like, if you're a righty, the torn callus is typically on your left hand, and vice versa if you're a lefty. That should tell you something about your grip strength. A lot of times when you have your weaker grip on one particular hand and you mix that weaker grip with sweat and fatigue and time, generally speaking, it's your recessive hand that's going to give you the problems. Being very mindful about how you're handling your kettlebell on your strong hand versus your weak hand can sometimes help you with figuring out how to keep your hand in a position that doesn't tear up your hands. Speaking of which, the second thing that we see, most of the time when people tear calluses, they tear them in the wrong spot. Torn calluses are typically in the center of your hand. If you're training properly with kettlebells, this is not a place of high friction with kettlebell training. When you're doing swings, your kettlebell should sit more in the hooks of your fingers. The skin is tougher, and with some training time, it becomes even more resilient, and it doesn't squish around like the skin that's in the middle of your hand. So if you're holding your swings in the hooks of your fingers, chances are you're not going to be down here where the softer part of your hand has a risk of tearing. For cleans and snatches, you should be able to pass the kettlebell from the hooks of your fingers into the base of your hand. If it's a small enough handle, you should almost bypass the center of your hand altogether. You should not be death gripping your kettlebell and making that friction in the center. Now, I have fairly small hands. If I'm working with a kettlebell that's 24 kilos or bigger, some residual contact in the center of my hand is unavoidable. But if I'm always focused on passing from hooks of fingers to base of hand, that sort of injury should never happen. I should never be tearing up this center part of my hand, because that part of the hand is just simply not getting the bulk of the friction from the kettlebell. The next important thing that I want to talk about is hand maintenance. The best torn callus is a callus that never happened. A lot of times, if you've been training with kettlebells or barbells and you run your hand across your hand, you're going to feel that your calluses build up to a point where they're almost raised up. And if you've let them get that bad, it's probably a sign that your hand maintenance is not what it should be. There's a variety of ways of taking care of your hands. A fairly new emery board on the rougher side is, a lot of our folks will use that and use the emery board. There's also like a nail buffer that you can buy at nail places, and you can run the nail buffer across the base of your hand, and that will take down some of that accumulated skin. Keeping this flat, so in other words, your calluses are never raised, is one of the easiest ways to prevent the kettlebell from grabbing one of those calluses during training. The other important thing is chalk. Now, some people don't like using chalk. Some people are chalk addicts. This is something that I learned many years ago from kettlebell training. I know it's magnesium carbonate. Like, how can the different brands be so much different? I mean, it's two things you put together and it makes chalk. Chalks are not created equal. I've been training, like I said, we've had our gym here 15, almost 16 years. We've had some really, really junky chalk that just doesn't stay on the hands, and you're always having to reapply, and it seems like no matter how much you reapply it, it doesn't seem to stick to the hands. I have scoured the earth looking for really, really good chalk, and I've come up with two solutions. The first one is, if you're training at home, the climbers chalk is usually superior to the cheap stuff that you find on Amazon. Obviously, because our gym goes through chalk in bulk, we can't get away with that because it's expensive and it comes in really small bags. The best chalk that I found that you can buy in blocks and cases is from Elite FTS. I am not an affiliate of theirs. I don't make any money for it. I'll put a link in the description so you can find it on their website. But of all the chalks that I have used, that is the chalk that seems to be the superior one that sticks to the hands and doesn't just wear off. We do have some folks that use liquid chalk, and there are some brands of that work really well. I personally don't use it, so I don't have one that I can recommend. So let's say you've done all that, and despite your best efforts, it happened. You have a torn hand, and it's not good. Let's talk a little bit about some things that you can do. There are ways to cover up your hands that will allow you to continue training. If it's really bad, you might have to take a break. But there's a couple of different things that I've seen out there. Tracy Rifkin put out a blog many years ago showing how to make a sock sleeve. And it's basically you take a sock, like an old sock, and you cut the end off of it, and you slip it through, and it leaves your fingers open so you can still handle a kettlebell, but the part of your hand that is injured is still being protected by the sock. I personally have never had any luck with that. My weapon of choice is KT tape. So that tends to really stick to the hands really well. And again, if you're training, you got sweat and fatigue and whatnot, sometimes the more traditional athletic tape stuff, it just doesn't stick to the hand really well. KT tape seems to do a better job. And so you can tape up with KT tape, and there's a couple different ways to be doing that. There's also some other products that you can use. There's a product that rock climbers use that's called Climb On. And I'll put an Amazon link to that product so you guys can take a peek at that. The general manager of our gym is an avid rock climber, and she swears by that stuff, and a lot of folks in the climbing community will use this product. It does help those torn calluses heal up pretty quick. I've also seen online, and some of our students have gotten a few pairs of these as well, but I call them kettlebell gloves. I'll stick a link for one of those as well so you guys can take a peek at them. It's not really like a workout glove, which we highly do not recommend. As a matter of fact, I don't even recommend the kettlebell glove. But again, if you got a torn callus and you want to continue training, and you got to be able to find a way to cover them up. It's basically a glove that only covers this part of your hand. And it leaves your fingers open so you can still handle your kettlebell, and it leaves the base of your hand open. So that thing we were talking about with cleans and snatches where it bounces from one part of your hand to the other, that the kettlebell glove allows you to work with that same technique while still keeping the part of your hand that might be torn covered as well. So guys, there you have it. Those are the tips that I have. I wanted to make this video short and informative. I wanted to answer the question that came in. This question actually came in from one of our students that wanted me to make this video. So wanted to get the pertinent details out there. So hope this helps with you in your training. Happy swings, and we'll see you again soon.